Hello and welcome to Creating the Life You Love, How to Live a Spiritual Life in a 3D Reality. I'm your host, Valeria Bruno, and this is the space where you will find the tools for your personal and spiritual development, so you can live a fulfilled life in the magnificence of your being. And this is also a space where we can openly talk about science, spirituality, and even go beyond. And today we are going to merge science, spirituality, and beyond by talking about one of my most favorite topics, sacred geometry, with my very welcome guests, Gail and Gregory Hoag. Hello, it's a real pleasure to have you here.
Oh, thank you for having us. It's a real joy to be back in Italy.
And we've been looking forward to this and really want to express to everyone that it's so much fun to have this wonderful international expansion where wherever we are on the planet, we can come together with our hearts, with our minds, with our spirits. So really happy to do this.
Yeah, me too. So I will introduce you to the audience by reading your bio. When people meet Gregory and Gail Hoag, they sense a rare relationship, full of consciousness and love. Gregory, scientist and leading expert on sacred geometry, along with Gail, artist, businesswoman, and health consultant, founded Metaforms 35 years ago. They create energetic technologies and share knowledge that supports people to evolve into higher awareness with source and heart consciousness. They are recognized as leading experts on sacred geometric technologies for improving health, raising consciousness, as we saw previously with Julianne Conard and their Stargate, reducing stress, manifesting purpose, and clearing electromagnetic interference. The Hoags are gifted intuitives and spiritual stewards, living on their high energy land in Colorado, where they have developed energetic chambers and geometric grids to positively affect the world. So thank you for your service, and thank you again for being here. So my first question will be the basic question I can ask. What is sacred geometry?
How about if you start?
I will. It's a very large topic because it literally includes an understanding of everything in the universe, from the atom to galaxies and the way that they work. And even things we don't see, like sound and time and light, are governed by the understanding that we can move from sacred geometry. And sacred geometry starts with number, and that is a universal language. That means that if you were to go to the other side of the universe and meet another civilization, the way you could communicate would be through number. And the number expands in the 3D dimension into geometry. And it even tells us how sound and light work. So we could communicate through this universal language. And what is really important for us today in the work that Gail and I are doing is that we have found the particular archetypes. And that is when you work with something that's universal and can be found throughout time, eternally, everywhere, then you can work with that as an understanding of an archetype that is unchanging, an archetype in the physical dimension. And what we are doing is creating these forms that are archetypes, and what they do is they resonate with that particular energy that created them. And so we are able to literally create resonance with universal principles by surrounding ourselves with geometries and particular numbers and particular light frequencies and sound frequencies. And this is the whole field of sacred geometry.
And I like to share sacred geometry from another perspective, that of being an artist.
Yeah.
And when I was beginning my journey as an artist, I was really wanting to understand the universe. I wanted to understand my relationship to everything around me, to the cosmology of all life. And I wanted to find out, like, how does it happen? How does energy, pure raw energy before there's any form, how does it show up in this physical life in beautiful pattern? Because we see these magnificent patterns around us in nature, you know, whether it's looking at the snowflake and the repetitive pattern of the crystalline, the six patterned hexagonal crystalline structure of a snowflake, the patterns in water, the way that flowers and trees and plants grow, the way our bodies grow. There's a very precise way that everything is organized. So here we are in a life where everything is changing all the time, but what's stable is that there is a system, there is a foundation, and sacred geometry speaks to that. It shows us how things are created over and over again. And when you go back into history and you look at architecture, you look at ancient history where there was a knowledge developed that helped us understand the mysteries of our cosmology, helped us understand how we got here, how we are who we are. And right now, I particularly think this is an important time to have this foundation of sacred geometry, because this is a very catalytic time, very transformative time. So much is changing. And yet within that change, there's something very stable. There's the foundation that sacred geometry speaks to, whether that's within resonance or whether it's looking out in nature and just knowing that the trees are going to continue to grow just the way they always have. It's just that we may have a different relationship to them than we've had before. So sacred geometry is very precious, and it really instructs us on ways that we can understand ourselves and connect to the wider breadth of who we are on this planet.
Yes, and I know that you were guided from a higher directive to find each other. So could you share, how do you meet? Did you meet?
Yeah, yes, and it's so fun because you don't know this, Valeria. We just several days ago on Tuesday, we celebrated our 35th wedding anniversary.
Oh, thank you.
And so, you know, Gregory and I had both been on our own individual paths, and he'll share with you what his was. Mine was coming from being an artist and also really wanting that deeper understanding of who I am. And that moved me into a spiritual path. And I was a follower of the work of R. Buckminster Fuller. He was the one who created the geodesic dome. Absolutely an incredible genius. The word synergy, synergetics, it comes from him because he understood that everything is stronger when all the pieces come together. And that's what he demonstrated in a lot of his work. I learned so much from him, and he talked about tetrahedrons and showed geometry, and it just fascinated me. It took me in. So when Buckminster Fuller passed away in the early 1980s, and I was channeling at that time, you know, which to me was just a way of acknowledging that there's higher understanding, higher consciousness, higher reference points, and we have access to them. So when he passed, I had the belief that his consciousness was still available. And I asked if he would teach me, if he would bring more information, more knowledge to me. And after a number of times of asking and being in meditation, I saw him come to me, and I started getting these wonderful instructions, these classes from him. And I loved it. And I got to the point where it was more than what I could really handle. And so I just said, you know, if this is kind of like my cup runneth over, it's too much for me. And I asked, and I said, if you want to continue working with me, I really need to work with somebody else so that we could do something with this information. And do you know, it was not more than a couple of weeks after that that I met Gregory, and he was walking around in, it was a home that I had set up an art studio in that a friend of mine was renovating. Turned out he had sold that house to this woman. And here he was carrying this box of these different geometries that had all these different tetrahedrons. And I looked at that and I said, oh, you must know the work of Buckminster Fuller. And he said, no, I don't. And I said, well, then you need to. And we just recognized each other. We realized that we had work to do. And I just, you know, felt like it was the universe that brought us together with the help of some coaching from Buckminster Fuller.
Yeah, yeah. And I know that Gregory has been also on a spiritual path for a long time. Could you please share your story?
Oh, happily. I started working with meditation and working with different spiritual masters in 1970 and then through the 70s. And what happened is I started building pyramids and experimenting with pyramids. So I built a pyramid with a friend that in the late 70s, it cost over $50,000 to build this pyramid that was only 10 feet high, but it had incredible crystals, many feet across. And what happened was it set off the Kundalini in my body. And what Kundalini is an energy that flows up from the earth. That's a Hindi term because they understand that in India, as the energy moves up from the earth, it moves through like a serpentine path through the spine that's literally opening all the chakras to bring someone back to a higher connection. It sounds very lovely, but in many ways, it can be a very difficult, painful process when you don't understand what's happening.
Yeah,
But
I can imagine.
in the end, yeah, you know that then. It's like trying to put a 220 voltage through a 110 circuit. And so my wires were getting fried, literally. I had to do a lot to calm down. But I started seeing things and I started building what I was seeing. And that's what Gail saw when I was walking around with a box of geometries that I had built. I hadn't studied sacred geometry. I didn't know who Bucky Fuller was. I didn't know the names of the Platonic solids. All I knew is that this is what I was seeing in my reality, and I was building it. And as it turns out that what I was seeing was the building blocks of reality. And Spirit started using my openness to bring through more and more information. And that's what connected Gail and I. And we've been doing this as a business for the last 35 years, sharing the tools that we build because we've discovered how they can support human beings in making a connection to the bigger part of themselves through resonating with, as I was saying before, the archetypes of creation, the archetypes that are there throughout Italy, which is a beautiful place to visit because it was passed down through the ages, and you see it coming up in Egyptian culture, and that was absorbed and understood by the Greeks and then the Romans. And so you see so many of these important measures and numbers and aspects of creation in the ancient temples and the art that's throughout Italy and the old world, as we refer to it in America. And it is closer to that essence. And sometimes I believe it helps when people live around and appreciate that type of beauty in their lives. It allows them to more easily slip into it. It's just like Gail likes to often say that wearing one of our pendants or working with some of our tools, it's like stepping back into nature and being in that resonance that we all find is so true for us when we're there by a stream with wind blowing through the pine trees, and you have those negative ions and the sun coming through. It's that natural connection to all that is that allows us to really feel our center, our soul, our connection.
And our heart opens in that place. We live a life that confines so many people in, in offices and boxes and places that limit our ability to reach for who we are. And when we want to take that breath and go to a place in nature that is so supportive, that reminds us who we are, it's reconnecting us with the very fabric. Because as we were talking about, sacred geometry is expressing how everything is created, all life, all matter, including ourselves. And so when we're in those places that are close to the way that that creation happens, then we feel right. We can become creative beings. And, I think that's a really important part of all this, is that at the cornerstone of everything, we are amazing creative beings. And in order to be in that place of exercising our full potential, it is so helpful to have around us, to resonate with what is natural, what the universe really wants us to remember in who we are. And sacred geometry just puts us on that path, and it's just so important.
Yes, I always wear my heart companion. It's always with me, and it's something that now I cannot stay without, because since I had it, I felt so centered, with such a clear mind, calmness, greater joy, more energy. I don't know, everything improved. It's just feeling it in my field, and as we shared previously, expanding my energy field. So I think that it's, especially because it's on you, it's just on your body, It's something that is very helpful as a tool in this retreat. I'm providing tools for personal expansion, for a spiritual awakening. So I think that this is just a very easy way to feel expansion. So I'm thankful because I really cannot live without it anymore. And so can sacred geometry be even a way to allow unity consciousness? We are talking so much about unity consciousness in the spiritual communities. This resonance can affect unity consciousness.
Definitely. And that's so important where we're moving into now. We're moving into that greater access to unity consciousness. And in order to do that, one of the things that is very important is to be able to drop into our heart space, to live through the heart. And one of the things that we wanted to achieve, the pendant, the heart companion that you were speaking to, Valeria, is that it helps us live through the heart. It helps us drop into that, because so many of us are spending a lot of time up in our mental levels, and very distracted by all the things that are going on in our everyday life, and we tend to forget who we are at the deeper levels. So the pendant really helps us, and we wanted to create something that, as you said, would be a simple tool that when it's with you, when it's sitting at the heart level, it keeps working, it keeps supporting that connection and that resonance. And what's inside, it looks like this little pendant, but what's inside are all these different antenna systems that are all based on sacred geometry and different geometric shapes. And I'm going to let Gregory talk about it, because he gets into the particulars and can share that with you.
Yes.
But we wanted to compress so much of what we have learned over the years about sacred geometry and put it into something that could be worn at the heart level. So you want to share some more about that?
Okay. Also, Valeria, I wanted to speak to what you were bringing up about unity. One of the difficulties that we're having as human beings on this planet today is technology. And when I speak about technology, I am speaking about the things that are going on with the electromagnetic fields. That creates a dissonance within us, and that leads to our separation. Also, the toxins that have been created through all the different technologies that we're working with, they contribute to our disconnection and separation. And also our emotional body, which is being electronically spread throughout the network of the planet. And we understand now, when we see something going on with the difficulties in other parts of the world, we often take it on personally. We interact with so much emotionally in a negative way, where we feel sad, we feel angry, we feel guilty. And all of these emotions disconnect us from our higher self, disconnect us from unity. And so what's happening with the pendant and what you were speaking to is that we have found a way to create resonance within this tool on such a profound level that human beings, when they wear this, they start to move into that resonance with the unity that they truly are. And it's something that's going to keep growing and growing and growing for you as long as you keep using it as a tool, as long as you keep exercising it. By exercising your heart, by exercising your consciousness, by exercising your ability to tune in to something beyond what we believe is happening here in the mind. You see, the brain is like a non-local phenomena. It exists on much greater levels, and we can access it through the heart center as a doorway. And in that way, we can be in tune with so much knowledge and information. And that's what was happening to me years ago and is still happening for both of us all the time. The information keeps wanting to pour through when it's relevant, when it's important to bring it through. And so what's going on inside of these pendants, I actually have a slide that I don't know if I can jump to it. I have another slide first that I wanted to share with you when that's appropriate. And then I can go into what's inside the pendants and show people a picture of the pendant as well.
Please. Yes.
Okay, so what I'll do is go to that right now. And this is one of the slides that we have a program that I guess that's how we connected with you, Valeria. And in this program, we had slides where we were sharing different important aspects of sacred geometry. And so I'm going to share with you here that in this particular,
Oops.
come on,
It's not working.
it's,
Try that.
let me try.
Whoop.
I'm just trying to get it to advance, and it's being...
It's okay. The image is so beautiful. So we enjoy seeing our galaxy.
Okay.
Just give us just a moment, and
Sure.
Huh. Okay.
it was working just perfectly before,
Naturally.
and now it's. Do you want to go back to? Oh, no.
I just went back there.
Okay.
Okay. Here
There
we
you go.
are. Yay. So this is a tetrahedron. It's when you have one object, it's a point, two form a line, three objects, if you think of three balls, create a plane. Now, when you add a fourth, that's when you finally get into 3D reality. You add the fourth ball and it nestles in between those three so that you have something that is the first form of creation called a tetrahedron. Now, the tetrahedron is made up of 4 elements, and I have that deep understanding, as did the Pythagoreans, that numbers have many qualities to them, including gender. So the even numbers are more feminine in their nature, in the way that they are balanced and stable, connected to the earth. And so I think of a tetrahedron as really a feminine aspect of creation, and it gives birth to this reality. It is the first, and the measure that is found within the tetrahedron is the measure that is found throughout creation. And this is what I mean by measure. 720 degrees is the total number of degrees on the surface faces the 4 triangles of the tetrahedron. So 720 degrees, you add that to that first 720, and you get 1,440 degrees, which is the next platonic solid, an octahedron. Now adding another 720 takes us into that well-known form, the hexahedron, which we call a cube. So the cube of space has 2,160 degrees. Now, here is where we start discovering some very interesting things with resonance. That is like a C tuning fork resonating with a C tone. The cube of space has 2,160 degrees, and the diameter of the moon has 2,160 miles. And this is 99.99% accurate, that measure of 2,160. Now, if you add to that the diameter of the Earth, which is 7,920 miles, what happens is you get a total of 10,080 miles, which also happens to be the number of degrees in this form we call the sphere of health, which is really a spherical projection of a icosahedron and a dodecahedron. It has 32 faces, and the total degrees is 10,080. So what this means when you work with resonance is that time and space can be resonant together. And so here we have the diameter of the Earth and the moon resonant with this geometry. And so by working with this geometry, we can create resonance with something that is, when I was speaking before about an archetype, the diameter of the Earth is one of the more eternal aspects of the Earth. We've watched the continents shift over time. There have been many ages where we've had dinosaurs, and then that passed and the ice age came, and there are shifts on the planet, but the diameter is consistent, and the diameter of the moon is consistent. And when I talked about time a few moments ago, another thing to realize is that 2,160 miles, 2,160 degrees, when you turn that into years and you have 2,160 years, you have one of the 12 ages of the zodiac. And so each age lasts for that period of time, and that is resonant with our moon, with the cube of space. And you can start to understand how these different aspects of creation start moving into resonance with each other. And at the beginning, when I said 720 degrees was the total number and it's the measure of all, you see if we divide the cube of space and the diameter of the moon by 3, we get 720. We divide the diameter of the Earth by 11, or the diameter of the sphere of health, the number of degrees, I should say, they all are multiples of 720. And I could go on with so many things that are multiples of that. And it's just one aspect of the way creation shows itself to us again and again with its perfect order. And this is what we were referring to a bit ago when you were talking about your heart companion.
Yeah.
There it is in the center, the double-sided piece. So it has two sides because one side moves the energy down through your body and connects you more to your heart and the earth and is more grounding. The other side with the star, which in this case is the one that we see on the right with the silver outside, that star toward your body is going to bring you more into your mental capabilities, and you're going to be able to connect more there on higher levels, and sometimes it helps with clearer thinking and writing and communicating. And of course, we make them for children, for pets.
Yeah, this is important.
Yes, and it creates connection with your child and with the pet. Do you want to say something? Okay.
Oh, I was just going to say that with animals, they seem to they just connect in with their families more. There's that relationship, that communication is expanding. It's almost like we understand each other better. Language doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily how we understand each other. It's that inner knowing. And that happens with children as well, where the children who are wearing the child companion and their parents are wearing the heart companions, they feel more grounded, they feel more accepted, because, you know, a lot of these young children these days are very, very special, and every way that we can support them to have that foundation so that they're rooted into something substantial that they can grow from. It's kind of like the roots of a plant. You want to have good, strong roots in order to grow the trees, the foliage, the fruit. And so the connections that happen are really amazing. And there was a woman who just called me yesterday from New Zealand, who had just gotten her heart companion recently. And she said when she put it on, one of the things we recommend is create an intention, and you can change that intention from day to day. And the intention that she put into it was that she wanted to see her relationship with her husband become better. And she said the next day, it was amazing. It was almost like he melted into what she was really asking for. So this is, not only does it affect us, but it affects other people. You might recognize this too, Valeria, that when you're wearing the pendant and you're working with other people who maybe they're your patients or clients or whatever, they feel that resonance. They get a sense of your inner balance, and they find that very attractive. It helps them be who they are. It helps them let go, to be helped in whatever way you're there to help them.
Yes,
So,
and also my cats, I have 24 cats. They like to come very close to me here. So I feel that, I know that they feel it. So they like to come and stay here in this field. I'm very curious about the relationship of sacred geometry and our DNA, because today in our spiritual awakening, we are regaining everything, all the information that is in our DNA. What is your opinion about it?
DNA is totally reflective of sacred geometric aspects. Working with the phi ratio, it's like the double helix moves in a phi ratio relationship that you can measure. And when I say phi ratio, I'm speaking about here's a caliper that works with the phi ratio. And if you work with the middle digit of your finger, you see the top is equal to this wider space of the bottom two digits. the finger to the bottom of the hand is in a phi ratio. The hand to the elbow is in a phi ratio. And this is what Leonardo da Vinci was showing with his very famous Vitruvian Man, where here he is outstretched in that circle, and he's showing all these relationships and how from the head to the navel to the feet is in this relationship. And so it is right down to the very DNA within our bodies. It's working with this relationship. And this relationship is found throughout the universe in the way time and numbers are found everywhere. So the DNA is literally a code that allows us, and even though supposedly we have so much junk DNA, it is serving a purpose to allow us to connect to these higher dimensional realms.
Something that we feel like we understand, some of this is from our research and also just from guidance, is that what Gregory was just calling junk DNA, because there's so much there that we're not using, and that's really the reference. It's not necessarily the physical part of it. They're antenna systems. You know, something that we've learned, like for instance with the internet, we don't have to hold it all. All we need to do is have something that can connect to information and people and events all over the planet and even into the universe. And as long as we have that capability to connect, we can keep expanding and expanding. And so my understanding of where we're going with our DNA is that the more that we are connected, that we're going to be able to turn on those channels that help us have wider access to so much more than what's out there. And I think that, like, for instance, you know, when Gregory talked about Leonardo da Vinci, and I believe that he had that innate genius capacity to connect into knowledge and the creative spirit that was so far beyond what his time period was. And I think that that's what we're moving into, you know, when we're talking about this as a time of transformation, that
So
we are going to do
sorry.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Should we look, because we have to open to this energy. If we have blockages or challenging times, should we just allow for the energy to come in and they will be more easily solved? So can we consider this an awakening process, just letting these energies go in?
Well, you know, that's a fabulous question. And I think it really deserves a lot of discussion. I believe that the universe gives us what we're capable of handling, even if it feels uncomfortable. But sometimes these blockages are doorways. Oftentimes these blockages are doorways to get us to recognize the limitations that we've been working with from the past. And if we are conscientious about that, then those blockages will enable us to open and move to the next level of who we are. Now, on the other hand, you know, sometimes people think that, well, if I just keep, you know, advancing the energy, then that'll be great. I'll be able to do more and more. However, there's also breakdown, and we want to be realistic that there's an in-breath and an out-breath. We can't just keep exhaling. We have to take the time to integrate, to come back into balance again, you know, and balance is really, you know, changing all the time. It's like, how far do you want to go? But then you come back again to center. So we want to keep that recognition that as we're moving through all of these catalytic changes, that we want to honor ourselves and each other, and we want to work with each other in constructive ways. You know, just, you know, the whole capacity of synergy. You know, the more we work together for the greater good, the more that we're all going to be able to achieve. So I think a lot of this is learning how to let down those barriers to each other and who's out there and what's out there, so that we can see that there's so much together that we can do as we can contribute to the good of the whole.
Yes, this is what I also believe. And I know that your creations are evolving as humanity is evolving. I saw in your website that you have a causal generator that I understand it's a geometry that you keep in your house. I think this is the highest form of having an antenna in the house to receive energy from the universe. This is my understanding. But I find it, just the name is very important, causal, because it's an opening also of our higher chakras. So do you recommend to have one of these in our houses?
Yes, I mean, we have a number of them. I mean, we have things
Yes.
all over our home that are constantly moving, because the movement itself creates a much more expanded field. And the causal generator is moving things from that causal level and infiltrating into this dimension. You see, in truth, and this is a difficult thing for a lot of scientists to hear, there are no causes in this dimension. This is a dimension of effects. It means that the cause literally starts on a higher dimensional level. And for each of us, if we put it into the context, the understanding that, oh, before I express myself here, I have this emotional thing that happens on a higher level, a mental, a psychological, something happening prior to the action that is witnessed here in this dimension. And so what we're doing with some of these forms, like the causal generator, is a motor that spins at a very particular speed and adds certain frequencies to the environment as it spins. We also have something that I really love right now that we have in a number of places in our home called the 5D solution. And 5G, I'm sorry. It is also fifth dimensional, but it's really speaking to this difficulty that we spoke of earlier that we're all experiencing with the upping of the amperage of the electromagnetic fields on our planet. And so going to 5G right now over much of the planet, I know some places in Europe have banned it because they see the negative effects. But the truth is, we've been suffering the negative effects of electricity since Nikola Tesla, a beautiful genius, but nevertheless, when he lit up the World's Fair in the late 1800s, and after that, the proliferation of electricity has been affecting us and in many ways dehumanizing us by limiting us from the full expression of what it is to be a fully evolved human being. And that's what the pendant, when you were saying it feels so natural, it feels so good, it feels so right, it's a function of expanding Valeria to a bigger part of who she is, so that she is able to express more of the fullness of her being. And your cats recognize that.
Yeah.
That's what's fun. Cats and children. I had one grandmother that said, what I love about my heart companion is that before I got this, my grandchildren used to run away from me when I came to visit. Now they climb all over me. They're crawling all over me and it's because of the pendant. They're attracted to it. They don't know why.
Yes.
Human beings, we don't really cognize these things. But I've had prison guards tell me, in high security prisons, that they always carry some of these tools on their body because the prisoners treat them better. They're much nicer to be around. People start shifting when your energy shifts, and
Yes.
we don't realize it. So much of us is caught up in the past, where we worry about the mistakes that happened, or what I did wrong, or what that other person said to me, or what I'm going to say to them the next time I see them. Well, the next time you see them, it turns out to be totally different than you expect. And think of all the time we spend going over these things, and that's lowering our vibration. It's disconnecting us. So when you're in working with some of these tools, what starts to happen is you get to be in the moment. You feel the energy of your presence. You feel your heart. You feel what it's like to be alive and present, and then dealing with everything that comes up. What you were talking about before with blockages. Blockages, another way to see them is opportunities. You can look at blockages as steps, opportunities to step beyond and go further, further up and further into your center. That's the only reason things happen, because we haven't resolved the issue. We haven't dealt with it. And if we don't deal with it, it's going to remain there within us. And yet there's so much beauty that wants to flow through us, so much love that wants to come into this world. And it needs to come in through each one of us, through our heart. And when the blockage dissolves, when you can step back and look at yourself, and that's what the pendant helps you to do. It helps you to step back and see yourself from a higher perspective. And then you go, oh, I used to do it this way, but now I don't have to anymore. And so it's almost like this other couple came in once to my shop. They were an older couple in their 80s, and they came in to buy something else because they both had pendants and they loved them. He leaned over to me and he said, what I like about this pendant is my wife doesn't yell at me as much anymore. And she overheard us and looked down and said, I don't have to.
Yeah.
And, you know, they both shifted, and they both had different perspectives how they shifted. But what they were basically shifting into was more of a unity, more of a relationship, more of a connection. And that's where these energies take us, into relationship with all. And then what is your opportunity but to be of service to all?
Yes.
And that's why we're all here, to be of
Yes.
service to all and experience the joy and love that can exist in that type of a world.
Yes, I totally agree. And yes, we can call it mission, we can call it service, but it's just to become one, to feel oneness. Gail, can I please ask you, because both of you received this higher guidance that is so beautiful and profound, can we make the audience experience a meditation?
Sure, sure. I would love to. And let's focus on unity.
Yes.
I feel like that's we're at a pivotal point here, and there's a lot of energies that are coming in as the Earth is traveling through the galaxies and taking in some new frequencies. We're able to reach out far beyond where we've been before. And so let's kind of go on that drift. And if everyone can just take a few moments and take a few deep breaths and just bring that wonderful air in, feel it circulating through your body. Feel how it brings you into a place of both groundedness and connection, so that your DNA, your cells, every part of your body is being nourished, it's being awakened, it's being prepared to come into this next session, this next mission of unity. So take another deep breath, and as you do that, just imagine that you are being bathed in this presence of unity, this resonance. And the geometries are all around us. They're absolutely perfect. And they're working to hook us all up together. And within ourselves, to bring unity into whatever has been out of balance. It's time to just make that little shift so that we can take the next deep breath and feel like we are being drawn more into that place of relaxation and a unified field of good for all. Just feel your body, mind, and spirit bathed in loving consciousness, in this structure, this coherence of compassion, where everything is truly okay. You are loved. You are accepted for all of who you are. Feel yourself coming into that place where you are recognizing how you are in relationship to all that is in a way that feels even better than it's ever felt. And it is directing you to see that in each other, seeing this in yourself, and knowing that it's mirrored out with each other. Seeing the divinity of yourself and seeing and knowing the divinity of each other. And feel yourself embraced in this field, embraced in this oneness, this unity that encourages you to find the very best within yourself and to share that with confidence and love. Take a breath and feel that. Feel that sense of acceptance. Allow whatever has been out there that has been confusion or concerning for you, let it just drip away right now so that you can feel the essence of who you are. And notice what you're letting go of is really not that big of a deal. That your connection Your soul connection is what is important. You are thriving on that now. And your heart is opening, and your higher mind is opening. And feel as if there's a bit of restructuring going on right now. That your DNA, your cells, your brain, your breath, your resonance of love is taking on a new reference point of love and acceptance and enjoyment in this unity, in this unified field. Just breathe that in. Allow yourself to have a beautiful smile on your face as you take it in and you feel its truth and you allow it to find its place in your life now. And just feel that. Feel the presence shifting in you. And it feels wonderful. And it will continue to grow. It will continue to be with you. And as we move back in to this program again, recognize that this will stay and grow with you. So take another deep breath. And allow your body to start settling back in to where we started here, but with a new, advanced and loving resonance. Move your fingers, your toes, move your body just a little bit. And when you're ready to open your eyes and return, come back and we welcome you.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. And besides this energy coming, I felt held in Gaia's consciousness. I really felt this energy. We were all one, but Gaia was with us. She was holding us in her field of consciousness, in her field of love. So I'm really grateful. It was a really, really strong energy. So I have a little moment to come fully back. I know that you have a very nice free gift for this audience. Can you share it, please?
Yes, and what we are offering you are 3 short meditations. And these meditations were created really for this time because we are going through so many shifts.
Yes.
And so sometimes we do need to let go of things, but we also need to have a sense of confidence that we're all together moving into this greater breadth of who we are. So these 3 meditations are, you'll hear the audio portion and you'll have this wonderful background of these spinning geometries, this lovely energy that you can focus on as you're hearing these meditations, as you're taking it in. So I think you'll really enjoy them.
Thank you so much. I could stay with you forever, but unfortunately we have a time limitation. And as I said when I sent you my invitation, you are really the cherry on the cake. In my retreat, it's an energy that I really love, and I'm so feel so blessed that you have been here with me and with my audience. So I thank you again. And if you can just, besides this meditation that was so profound, give a little hope for someone that still is not ready or feels things that is not ready to open.
I think the most important thing is that we're all here to love and accept each other, and it's the unity. It's bringing us all together in this spirit. It's not one above another or one ahead of another. It really isn't. We're all here together. So just relax and enjoy it and feel your heart. You know, open to really trusting yourself. It's time for that.
Yeah.
It is so important, as Gail is saying, for us to realize that we're not alone, that there are so many people throughout the planet who are being opened and called to a higher resonance. And this is really why we are here, to be able to evolve spiritually. And the challenges that are in the outside world are helping our spirit be exercised in that lovely place inside where we come back to the truth, back to that love, and then we realize we are in this together and we are growing. The earth is shifting, Gaia is shifting, and we are, those who choose are shifting with her, and we can recognize each other just the way your cats are attracted to that, children are attracted to that energy. And for those of us opening our hearts, we're attracted to that energy in each other. And
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I hope that one day I will be possibly meeting you in person and seeing your creations in your strong land in which you live. So thank you again. I thank you, the audience, and we will see each other again. Thank you.
Blessings and love.
Blessings
to you.
and love.